Greetings in the name of Jesus, Yeshua Mashiach. I have this short message on this tithing issue, but before I go into this message, I just want to say something briefly about the way the issue is going in Nigeria. First of all, I want everybody to understand that the individual claiming ownership of tithing Brouhaha in Nigeria is a copycat. The tithing issue did not start in Nigeria, as some hailing praises to a certain Nigerian think. There are a series of videos, messages on YouTube by Americans where I believe the Nigerian got his inspiration from, not from God. The reason why the issue is hot in Nigeria is because of overexcited reaction and response of some church leaders. Both those who are misappropriating tithes and those agitating against tithing are wrong. All that is happening now is a proof we are in the last days. Knowledge is increasing and the love of many for truth is waxing cold. In fact, many, as a result of all this brouhaha, many have decided to give their tithes to the poor, contrary to the Bible, because there is a difference between tithes and alms. When you give alms to the poor. But I can understand why people are revolting against tithing. But misappropriation of tithes by some churches does not change the doctrine of tithing because it's God's commandment. So we're going to see this, as we go on. We're going to read. First of all, let's read from Deuteronomy 18, from 1 to 8. I will read quickly. I may not, explain those verses because they are very straightforward. Nothing to explain about them. And then after that, we're going to see Paul's reference to that Deuteronomy. Okay, so I read from verse 1, Deuteronomy chapter 18, verse 1 to 8. The priests, the Levites, all the tribe of Levi shall have no part nor inheritance with Israel. They shall eat the offerings of the Lord made by fire and his portion. Therefore they shall have no inheritance among their brethren. The Lord is their inheritance, as he said to them. Verse 3. And this shall be the priest's due from the people, from those who offer a sacrifice, whether it is bull or sheep. They shall give to the priest the shoulder, the cheeks, and the stomach, the first fruits of your grain, and your new wine, and your oil, and the first of the fleece of your sheep. You shall give him, for the Lord your God has chosen him out of all your tribes, to stand to minister in the name of the Lord, him and his sons forever. So if a Levite comes from any of your gates, from where he dwells among all Israel, and comes with all the desire of his mind to the place which the Lord chooses, then he may serve in the name of the Lord his God, as all his brethren the Levites do, who stand there before the Lord. They shall have equal portions to eat, besides what comes from the sale of his inheritance. Very straightforward. Towards this verse 8 talks about from the sale of his inheritance. Then if you pay attention also to verse 5, talks about the minister. Okay, the minister in the name of the Lord. Now, with all that I have read, let's see what Paul said in 1 Corinthians chapter 9 from verse 1 to 14. He made reference to this Deuteronomy. Let's read that. 1 Corinthians 9 from verse 1. I'm going to read it to 14. Am I not an apostle? Am I not free? Have I not seen Jesus Christ our Lord? Are you not my work in the Lord? If I am not an apostle to others, yet doubtless I am to you. For you are the seal of my apostleship in the Lord. My defense to those who examine me is this: do we have no right to eat and drink, Do we have no right to take along a believing wife, as do also the other apostles, the brothers of the Lord, and Cephas? Or is it only Barnabas and I who have no right to refrain from working? Whoever goes to war at his own expense, who plants a vineyard and does not eat of its fruits, or who tends a flock and does not drink of the milk of the flock. Verse 8. Do I say these things as a mere man, or does not the law say the same also? Let me read that verse 8 again. Do I say these things as a mere man, or does not the law say the same also? Verse 9. For it is written in the law of Moses, you shall not muzzle an ox while it treads out the grain. Is it oxen God is concerned about, or does he say it altogether for our sakes? For our sakes, no doubt. This is written, that he who plows should plow in hope, and he who threshes in hope should be partaker of his hope. If we have sown spiritual things for you, is it a great thing if we reap your material things? If others are partakers of this right over you, are we not even more? Nevertheless, we have not used this right, but endure all things, lest we hinder the gospel of Christ. Verse 13. Do you not know that those who minister the holy things eat of the things of the temple, and those who serve at the altar partake of the offerings of the altar? 14. Even so the Lord has commanded that those who preach the gospel should live from the gospel. So with this, Paul made reference to that Deuteronomy 18. So what is Paul saying here is that a pastor called by God, should be partaker of what is coming out from the church. That's simple. Now, like I said, I understand why people are agitating, against tithing. Tithing is biblical, because the pastor, a minister of God, has to be fed. And from the time of the Bible, Old Testament, till this present time, it's clear. It's very clear. Because everything now is spiritual. You don't go back to Levite as from physical, geographical Israel. Today is spiritual. So there are people called by God. Now, if you people keep on running around picking verses from the Bible and running with them, what about people, pastors that are genuinely called by God, and they are not in any way misappropriating tithe that are given to their churches? Now, if you keep on talking about tithing is not biblical, so what do you think you're doing? You're really fighting against God, because those men of God, of course, God will always feed his people. That's one thing that is sure. You can take that to anywhere. No matter what anybody campaign against tithing. If you want to campaign against tithing because of people that are misappropriating tithes, and then because of that you want to cut off tithe as a biblical doctrine, that is wrong. Because there are people that are working for God, that are minister of God, that need to be given this tithe to. And they do it, of course, they use it correctly. And whereas you guys keep on running around and, saying tithe is not biblical. And here is Paul talking that those that minister the holy things, they eat of the things of the temple. I'm just coming in now again so that those who are following this rebellion should just caution themselves. Because why you think you are going after those who are misappropriating tithes, and then at the same time you fighting against God's doctrine for those who are real ministers of God? So you need to check it. If you want to fight corruption and leave God's doctrine alone. Leave the doctrine alone for those that are God's minister indeed. All right? Now, there is another thing here that the one last thing I want to mention before I close this message here is the issue with the sons of Eli. Okay, you will notice that, I mean, I just read it. Let me just read that chapter. It's in 1 Samuel chapter 2 from verse 12 to 17. 1 Samuel chapter 2 verse 12 from verse 12. Now the sons of Eli were corrupt. They did not know the Lord. And the priest custom with the people was that when any man offered a sacrifice, the priest's servant would come with a three-pronged flesh hook in his hand while the meat was boiling. Then he would thrust it into the pan or kettle or cauldron or pot, and the priest would take for himself all that the flesh hook brought up. So they did in Shiloh to all the Israelites who came there. Also, before they burned the fat, the priest's servant would come and say to the man who sacrificed, "Give meat for roasting to the priest, for he will not take boiled meat from you, but raw." And if the man said to him, "They should really burn the fat first, then you may take as much as your heart desires," he will then answer him, "No, but you must give it now, and if not, I will take it by force." Verse 17. Therefore the sin of the young man was very great before the Lord, for men abhorred the offering of the Lord. See, you can notice something important here. If you want to compare what the sons of Eli were doing, if you want to compare it to what some churches are doing with tithes, you can do that. Okay, but in this case of the children of Eli, what they were doing with sacrifices did not stop that commandment of God. It did not stop it, because it's God's commandment they do that kind of sacrifices. Now, what the children of Eli were doing did not in any way stop that commandment of God. So if we compare that with what is happening today with some churches misappropriating tithes, their misappropriation should not in any way stop God's doctrine of tithing. Okay, because God knew what to do. He dealt with Eli and his sons. If you read that same chapter of 1 Samuel chapter 2 from verse 27 all the way to 36, you will see the pronouncement of God on Eli and his sons. So, I mean, you people just need to leave God's doctrine alone. No matter whichever angle, any angle you look at it, tithing is biblical. It is biblical because of God's people. They minister at the altar of God, so they must be partaker of whatever comes into the altar of God. And tithing is one of those things. So just for you to understand, if you keep on doing this, you're fighting against God. Yes, you're seriously fighting against God. And I'm doing this message so that people can raise up their heads and know what they are doing. Understand what you are doing. If you're talking about tithing, it's not biblical, you are fighting against God. Okay? Because people of God, ministers of God, that's where they get their salary from. Let's put it that way. It's just like anybody. If you're working in a radio station, you don't get paid. You just keep on working. Would that be okay with you? No, if it's not be okay with you, then you guys should, because God already laid down all these rules, all these commandments. And now people need to ask themselves, why is all this happening now? In America, where that kind of tithing stuff started, you don't see people talking about it on the street. Of course, some people comment on YouTube about this issue, but it's not something that bothers those ministers, those teachers, those pastors. Those pastors don't even respond to all these things. But because in Nigeria, people get agitated and pastors want to respond, and then some pastors that already have beef with another pastor, they come on social media and start talking all kind of stuff. No more respect. Even if that person has done you anything wrong before, you don't come on social media and start talking. People need to be careful. You can't say you are a man of God and you come on social media and talking against another man of God, and you claim to be a man of God yourself. What kind of man of God is that? Is that the fruit Jesus Christ talk about? The fruit. He says, by their fruits we shall know them. Now, if somebody comes on social media and talking about another pastor that is even senior, both in age and in everything, and you'll be talking like that, and you say yourself you're a man of God, I don't know what kind of God is that then, but that fruit is not showing. So people need to understand that, tithing is biblical, and then the real men of God that really, that get supported by tithe, they need to partake of that ministration that they give at the altar of God. So I'm going to stop it from here. If I have any other message another time, I'll come on and give it. Other than that, if you want to listen to my previous audio, it's there on YouTube as well. Thank you for listening, and God bless.